As an old pilot, I don't do visual approaches at night with the autopilot off. Instead, I'll take the visual approach backed up by the ILS with the autopilot on, to avoid situations like what apparently happened to Southwest's Flight 4069 the other night in Oklahoma City. Let's check it out. As a Boeing 777 long-haul pilot, we know a thing or two about fatigue, and we want to use the automation as much as possible to help us avoid making mistakes that can crop up quite easily if we attempt a visual approach with the autopilot off. Starting first with Simon Radecki's Aviation Herald, a Southwest Airlines Boeing 737-800. This is not a MAX aircraft. Registration 8555 Zulu, performing flight as Southwest Flight 4069. Departed June 18th from Las Vegas, Nevada to Oklahoma City, was on final approach to Oklahoma's runway 13 just past midnight when the aircraft descended to about 1,725 feet MSL, which put him about 525 feet above the ground, AGL, at about 7.9 miles before the runway threshold, and that was right about midnight. The approach controller told the crew low altitude alert and queried, "You good out there?" The crew initiated a climb to 3,000 feet MSL. The controller canceled the approach clearance and instructed the crew to go around, subsequently provided vectors for an approach to runway 17 right, where the aircraft landed without further incident about 10 minutes later. The FAA reported after an automated warning sounded, the automation inside the air traffic control tower has helped with this as well. An air traffic controller alerted the crew of Southwest Airlines Flight 4069 that the aircraft had descended to a low altitude 9 miles away from the Will Rogers Airport. The FAA will investigate. The airline reported that they are in contact with the FAA regarding the irregularities on this approach. This is the third low-altitude warning that's been in the news with Southwest Airlines in recent history. We're still waiting for an NTSB preliminary report on the LaGuardia incident back on 23 March. And we have the go-around in Lihue, Hawaii, that resulted in an altitude of just 400 feet above the ocean. The Will Rogers Oklahoma City Airport is located right here, is runway 13. 9 miles short of runway 13 puts the aircraft low over the community of Yukon at just 500 feet. Runway 13 located right here, 7,800 feet long. The 17s left and right are both 9,800 feet long. There is a non-ILS RNAV instrument approach to runway 13 that has an MDA of 1,640 feet, which puts the aircraft at 361 feet above the ground right prior to the touchdown. This low altitude alert occurred about 9 miles out from the end of the runway, which would correspond roughly to this waypoint Wabbit, where the aircraft should have been at 4,000 feet MSL. The aircraft was actually at 1,700 to 1,800 feet. In other words, 9 miles out, the aircraft was basically already at minimums, what would have been minimums for this GPS RNAV approach. One of the problems with doing a visual approach without the backup of an instrument approach is it involves some mental gymnastics that you have to do in the middle of the night, and that is for every 3 miles out, you should be 1,000 feet above the ground. So out here at Wabbit, at approximately 9 miles out, you should be 3,000 feet above the ground. Plus the airport elevation puts you at a MSL altitude of about 4,000 feet. That gives you the approximate 3-to-1 glide slope to make it in for a visual approach. Victor over at Vass Aviation already has this incident up on his YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to his channel and support him on Patreon. Let's check it out.
4069 field check.
4069, clear visual approach runway 13, your main frequency, clear to land.
Clear for Vision 13, stay with you and clear to land at Southwest 4069.
So right away, we know that they are doing just a straight visual approach. They didn't say anything about the RNAV or GPS approach into runway 13. And the tone of their voice, it sounds like typical late night fatigue, very common.
Southwest 4069, low altitude alert. You good out there?
Yeah, we'll go around 4069.
Okay, so who alerted them first? Was it really the tower with the was it the automation in the tower that alerted the controller, who in turn alerted the crew that caused them to initiate the go around, or was the crew themselves getting enough jip whiz warnings in the cockpit to initiate the go around themselves? That'll all come out in the investigation. There's the location of the low altitude alert right there over the town of Yukon, right near the waypoint Wabbit on the GPS RNAV overlay, where they should have been at 4,000 feet. They're now at 1,800 feet.
You want to go around and come back for 1-3, or are you going to continue with the approach?
Yeah, we'll come back around through 17, if you don't mind.
Okay, 17 right?
Yeah, we'll do that.
4069, maintain 3,000, and it'll be like a right 180, turn right, heading of 360, maintain 3,000 for runway 17 right.
Alright, right turn 360, Southwest 469.
So they do the right-hand turn, back up to the north, vectors around.
Southwest 4069, turn right, heading 050.
Right turn 050, Southwest 469.
17 right. But again, they elect to do just a
Southwest
straight.
4069, turn right, heading 080. The field will be out to right, 10 miles.
They instead elect to just do the straight visual approach. I don't hear them accepting the vectors for the ILS approach. Hopefully they're backing up this visual approach to 17 right with the ILS, which is available on 17 right.
Right turn 080, Southwest 469.
Southwest 4069, turn right, heading 145.
Alright, 145, Southwest 469.
Southwest 4069, turn right, heading 160. Field's 1 o'clock, 9 miles.
Alright, 160, 469, we got still inside.
Southwest 4069, clear visual approach, running 17 right, remains frequency, clear to land.
Clear that 17 right, clear for the visual, 17 right, Southwest 469.
And they land uneventfully on 17 right. Another advantage of using the ILS to back you up on your visual approaches, you've got two parallel runways. You make sure that you're landing on the correct parallel runway, 17 right. Looking at the approach path coming in over Yukon, it appears to me that the autopilot is off during this section of the approach, up to the point to where they got the low altitude alert right around in here. If we download the KML data and drop it into Google Earth, we can take a look at the low altitude alert occurred right down in here and come down in a more oblique view. We can see the low altitude portion right back in here, right over the Yukon High School area. So local residents definitely woke them up last night. And if we look at the track log here on FlightAware, we can see a nice controlled rate of descent, about 700 to 800 feet per minute, all the way down to about 1,725 feet MSL, approximately based on the ADS-B data, before initiating a controlled climb out missed approach at about 800 or 900 feet per minute rate of climb. So why did the pilots get so low? Well, that'll come out in the investigation, but it seems to me to be just simple pilot error. They were not using the GPS RNAV approach, instrument approach into runway 13. They were simply flying it visually with the autopilot off. Could it have been an equipment error or a altimeter error? I doubt it, because this is such a gross error that that's highly unlikely. Regarding the Southwest Airlines flight 2786 that got too low while on the missed approach out of Lihue. First off, this made major news because this did involve a 737 MAX 8 aircraft. But this incident was taken into the ASAP program, the Confidential Aviation Safety Program within Southwest Airlines. It was reviewed by everybody, and it was determined to be a crew-induced problem. It was not a problem with the aircraft. A thing about ASAP, the whole concept of ASAP is it was set up in agreement with the FAA and the NTSB and the airlines and the unions and everybody else to be an anonymous reporting program. So the information that comes out of the ASAP program needs to remain within the company. It does not need to be leaked out onto social media. That undermines the whole effort of ASAP. Pilots will be unwilling to take advantage of the ASAP program if there's a chance that all that data gets leaked out. From this incident, all I can tell you is this was a crew-induced problem. It was not a problem with the autopilot, and it was a hand-flown missed approach. And during the missed approach, the crew simply got too low. Regarding the LaGuardia event, low altitude event back on the 23rd of March, we're waiting for an NTSB preliminary report on that. And once the information comes out in the NTSB reports, that is all public information and can be shared with everybody. There's a lot of turnover in the industry right now. We've got a lot of brand new pilots coming on board these major airlines at this time. And I think we're seeing the results of this in a lot of these incidents. Thank you so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this content possible. See you here.